Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Corporate Association. We are popping in today with some fantastic Valorant action. We are in our semifinals here in the playoffs. Gonna be feeling lucky versus off your feed for your casting entertainment, Sir Waltham and Moxie. And Moxie, we've got a little bit of good news for you and I today.
I got nervous. We had to play take a little bit longer to join the lobby, Wolfman. I'm going to admit it right now. I felt the nerves coming in. Were we going to have the teams agree to play Icebox and then one have to forfeit so we don't even get to see it? But no, it is happening. Icebox exists. It will be the first map that we get to see of the evening, so it's not even going to be that conditional map free where both of these guys have to win one map for us to actually get to see it. And I, for one, am extremely excited because a couple of days ago we actually got the last patch notes that will be coming through in 2020 for Valorant, and it featured a whole host, 5 in total, coming through to try and change Icebox, make it just a little bit fairer on both sides, so that you don't just immediately get pot-shotted by an Omen who's teleported up to the high ground.
Well, anybody who's confident in their own skills, not going to be too upset by things being made a little bit fairer. Perhaps, maybe they'll lean on it if they're not as confident, but probably not going to be the case for either of these teams as we do look ahead towards these character selections. What do you anticipate seeing, Mox?
A lot of verticality. Already we are seeing Jet getting locked in for Papa Rapper. And that is no surprise there, because even though they have shrunk a couple of those containers and changed out the heights on the crates on point A, Icebox still features a whole heck of the high ground where Jets really do like to roost. And likewise, I'm going to be expecting the Omen to come through just the same for just the same reason, where you need to have that mobility, that chance to get from the low ground to the high ground, both on the attack and on the defense.
Certainly, as we do have a few seconds before we get started here, we also see that Cypher online and looking so far pretty good, but we are about to hop into it, Mox.
Yeah, off your feet, actually keeping us guessing. We didn't get to see anything other than the cipher that they picked before those agent locks came in. And this is no surprise as well. Sova's on both sides. Sova can be very good at getting information very early on in the rounds when you're on the defense. There's actually a specific spot that if you've been checking out your Blitz Valorant guides, you can use on that A site. You have to line up your mouse pixel perfect, but you can actually slot your recon bolt through the grate up above to get it to land right as the attackers come out and file towards that belt. Likewise, on the attacking side, you want that Sova to have that information coming through of whether or not the defense are going to be trying to aggressively push through mid.
Well, a completely separate note here, Mox. Very jealous of Howard Dean having that candy cane knife. A little bit envious, but I have a sweet tooth, so maybe that's just my own personal bias coming through here. We will be starting with off your feed on the attack and line it up towards that mid once again. We're going into this pistol round, so might be looking to close the gap rather quickly. See a lot of defenders holding up on A.
Yeah, feeling lucky actually, not going to go for any mid control whatsoever and instead holding a lot further back from B. Something that we see a couple of defensive teams do when that round starts. If you want to hold those chokes, you do have to rush very quickly in, and on pistols, that's not always the smartest choice for the defensive side.
The maneuverings now coming in from the attackers off your feed. Feed going to slowly be rotating their way towards A. They still want to be very careful here. A lot of the verticality, again, can catch you out, can be very if you're not on your toes consistently. We see them all walking around on that low ground. That's a bit dangerous here as Rappa the Rappa going to be looking to throw in some shots, gets the right clicks in with the classic. Not quite able to find a whole lot of damage, although does put the pressure on early. Immediately taken down, though. Off your feed now has that slight numbers advantage, but the retake still present here from their opposition in feeling lucky. The recon bolt, rather, going to be going out. Trying to tag any enemies they can, get that information suddenly. Things are looking a little bit more equalized as off your feed does manage to get the plant initially, but the defuse does.
Yeah, attacking side, unfortunately, were able to get that plant down, but they've just abandoned the spike right now as the defense are completely covering it. It is just the Omen, though. And if you have that numbers advantage, you can very quickly just worm your way through, especially with a couple of these corners, that camping corner that I'm sure we've all witnessed. The defensive
Yeah.
side just holding, now being slanted out so that you can't go for the cheat strat.
Not quite gonna work, but now that second round where the armor is gonna look a little bit better for that attack side. Again, some of those submachine guns and a bulldog come out onto the
Yeah, and I mean, you're playing with your economy. You know you were able to win that pistol round, so the defensive side aren't going to be stacking up when it comes to that weaponry. If you want to go with the bulldog and go for a little bit of superior spray, then you can absolutely go a lot more aggressive than we actually saw off your feed go in that last round, where they were a lot more tentative. They sort of sniffed around B to figure out where the defense would be holding, as if they wanted to get the spike planted down there, and then they very quickly swung over to A, sensing that there was a presence on B. It wasn't fully stacked on A, and if they hit it as a full team, they would very quickly be able to absolutely wipe out with numbers alone.
certainly. And as we look ahead, might be wondering why this, I guess, pause period is taking so long. Apparently, some audio issues going on for one of the members for feeling lucky. So I want to give them a fair shake, allow them the opportunity to just get that resolved, figure out if they can make it happen. But it doesn't seem to be the case. At least it's taken quite a bit of time, though.
Yeah, it seems to be Howardine as well, the Omen, just staying very still in that defensive spawn. But we can sort of have a look at the agents, the composition that's going to be coming out. The big difference at the moment is one team is running the Cypher, the other team has chosen to take the Killjoy. And both of those have that same sort of idea of running into them, information.
Mhm.
I find that the Cypher has just a little bit more round the clock utility when it comes to the cameras, the trapwires. You can use them to make sure that no one's flanking around. And on Xbox, it is all about working out whether that defensive side is trying to flank around, if they're going to push through mid, and sort of catch up on your backside, nip at your ankles, force you into that sort of sandwich where one half of the team is on the point, the other half of the team is behind you. Whereas the Killjoy does the same thing, but the turret and the chicken, it's never really found, at least to me, the same value as the trapwire and that camera. That is so important, that you can move around and use to get a lot more information. You can work out the numbers exactly, whereas the turret only tells you that there's a presence.
Yeah, perhaps a little. You're trading the damage for a little bit more precision on the information there. I definitely have to agree. The Cypher has the huge opportunity to get some big plays here. Although looks like the attackers might struggle to use it a little bit more than if they were on the defense. But with everything comes the side swap.
Yeah. Honestly, attacking Cyphers, you would think that it would be a little bit harder to find value, but I've seen Cyphers just drop the camera down before the team actually pushes in, and you use that very similar to how we see Sovas utilize the Recon Bolt, or Skies using their flashes to get that little bit of information to know how many people are going to be on a certain spot. Sometimes they abandon the push entirely if they feel that it just does not line up, and that can actually be so helpful in making sure that you don't just unnecessarily die.
Now, as we go into this next round, Mox, do want to point out that during that pause phase, it looks like the Raze and the Jet both took a little bit of damage, and you gotta be careful of that, given that we're still using pretty light weapons. That can make the difference of 1 or 2 bullets as we look ahead.
Now, it seems like the attacking side know that the defensive side are going to be on the pistols, and so they can be a little bit more aggressive in trying to take that mid control and section the defense off of the side of B.
And Pagoose hold that angle very well, very disciplined right there, but perhaps getting too much achieved with it. Will be waiting, going through tube, ready to push up, but push into that Sova, who might have a little bit of that information gathering capabilities should that recon bolt come out. But instead, Pig gonna be going out of tube, but right up into the Raze. Ampagoose taken down early on. Don't have to worry about those paint grenades coming through anymore. And then now gonna be taken down next. And so far, it looks like Off Your Feet doing exceptionally well in there.
Yeah, the teleport onto the crate as well, so you can get just a little bit of a better eyesight of that battle. Is now JKQA is trying to wrap around, but that before that I was telling you about Waltham, that horrible place that you can be caught out as you rotate through A, and that's all because the offensive side were able to move through tube, take control of the side, and that means that they can completely control how Feeling Lucky are able to move their forces from the A site onto the B.
Right now, if I'm not mistaken, it's just going to be Parappa on that Jet with the Shorty. Not much you can do, especially when there's so many enemies. Only 2 shells kill everybody and get the defuse. It looks like Parappa just might try to be on their tails. Some frags. It ends up going for the defuse and now has to force the opposing team to double back. Nope, it's going to be Tendy Town turning on them, able to get the kill, but that does force a lot of members to die by the bomb.
And Pigmaster, the only one that is able to survive. So honestly, that's a victory the defensive side, they've been able to completely cripple the economy as we move into this third round, which is the one where we will be seeing that defensive side now buy up. This is the reason they were on pistols in the last one. They wanted to be able to stand on the same ground as off your feed so that they can try and take this third point and move on to the next round with money on their side.
I will rip the light
And
from
so
them.
far, the kill is looking pretty dry for the side of Feeling Lucky. Not really finding a whole lot, but as we head into this third round, they might be looking to change that up. Angelo catching one or two members, but not a whole lot of damage. In fact, as we look ahead,
Cover going
gonna
out.
be the push on towards that A. Gonna be the Omen from the defending team. It's gonna be Howard. We're gonna make that rotation eventually, looking to regroup, both those defenses perhaps, but Ampagoose gonna be capitalizing on the fact that Big Master a little bit too far forward takes the first kill into the fight.
Raze is so dangerous in these corners with that boombot, just able to send it in, get a kill. And it means that the attacking side just completely slowed down. All of the momentum they wanted to move on to the site so quickly, it's been completely slowed.
Do see off your feed taking their time. The boombot goes from Angelo, trying to find something, perhaps us out any of the defenders, but it's not really going to matter as the attack team does back out. Teddy Town tries to connect onto Ammon, but not going to be quite finding it as the headshot with the Vandal comes through. The attackers continuing to hemorrhage players.
Amon was waiting in mid for the entirety of that round, waiting for that rotation to come through. If it was a fake out from the A side to the B side, that Soba would have known and realized. And that means that off your feed are now caught right all over this map.
And Tangelo now just trying to keep their composure as the lone Raze on A site. I'm going to be backing them up a little bit, but eventually it's both the remaining members of Off Your Feed taken down and the defenders putting a point on the board.
They just got too split. They wanted to hit that A site, they wanted to hit it really quickly, but from the get-go, the wheels just started to fall off, and it's really difficult keeping that momentum with the way that that A side is set out, which is why we see the Raze come through. The second you use those utilities, any side that wants to move through quickly is just going to get completely slowed down. It's very similar to walking through a stage slow orb. And the second that they want to move over from the A side to the B side, they don't have that control of mid. The Soba finds out and completely slows them down once again. And that's something that is just very difficult. I mean, it's called Icebox for a reason.
On ice for Angelo once again pushed into throwing in some paint grenades, forcing out some positioning from the defenders, but it's not going to quite be enough. Do have only that one Raze point presence. You are seeing the attacking team line up towards that mid, getting ready to really collaborate and perhaps get a little bit more of a consistent push here, as right now it's just the Jet and the Raze trying to hold their own, not let the defense push up.
Pigmaster not actually going through to you, but rather standing on top of it, so you get that eyeful, you get to try and figure out where the Amon is going to be hiding on that mid, and that means that you also get the shot onto Parappa. And now that you've deterred the defense from that mid site, now that you have the numbers advantage, this is where you continue that momentum, this is where you hit A-side fast.
Jello going to be using those dead packs, try to locate themselves a little bit faster, push up onto Killjoy, but JK able to take the early kill onto Khan. Eventually does lose their own life, however, as now the plant comes through for Offie. Feed. As we see them right now trying to hold Ampagoose, trying for the retake, eventually gets brought down. Didn't have Howard Dean with them to give them that backup, and now it's a one-man mission here. Mox Howard Dean trying to take it a little bit slow, a little bit methodical. Sees the Jet, does eventually connect. So does Tangelo, though, as they get the headshot with the...
Yeah, it was the same angle as well. Unfortunately, when you're going up against that numbers disadvantage, you've got to be able to pull, to force that attention to split. You've got to come from two different angles at the exact same time. Otherwise, 4 people versus 1. Yeah, maybe one will miss, maybe you'll be able to take one down, but it's also very likely that the 3 others will be able to hit their shots and you'll be absolutely shredded in seconds. We are seeing this goal be a little bit closer, and that means that the economy is a lot closer, so neither of these guys can really afford to go for something that can operate it and immediately section off part of this map down to Fret and Fret alone.
Tangelo once again go up on to this high, try to hold here. Might not be conscious of the Killjoy that they will be facing, though. Be very careful. Pigmaster just get the initial kill onto Howard Dean. Might open up B just a little bit. Maybe that Race eventually backing off of A, getting with the rest of their team. A lot of smokes trying to come out, and Ampagoose gonna be getting the better of themselves here as Pigmaster does take themselves down. Now it's just 3 remaining members make it to, as Ammon does fall. 3rd kill for Pigmaster into the plant, as now it's just going to be the one Jet who has to try to make something happen here, but once again only has the shorty.
Yeah, the lurk coming through from the Rays, making sure that the Killjoy doesn't get the time to try and help the team out by moving from that A side to the B. And now we're starting to see the attacking side really get to grips with how this map works. Yes, the places where you drop that spike are extremely important, but arguably mid is the absolute breaking point on this entire map, because if the attacking side just completely abandon it, they risk that flank coming through the defensive side, aggressively pushing out of it and using that to splinter their forces from the A side onto the B side, or vice versa. Parappa is now going to be buying into the operator, going to be probably firing off a couple of shots to try and once again slow down the side of Off Your Feed. This was when the defensive side found the most value.
Your feet starting to build up quite a bit of bank as we head into this round. Tangelo once again finding some good value there, getting the kills. Ammon throwing in the recon arrow to get a little bit of scouting. Amphagu's going to be taking advantage as the Jet is forced down. Now we see Off Your Feet suffering a little bit in the manpower department here as they have to try to regroup themselves. Team still pretty condensed, still has the team cohesion to focus in on this A push. They're doing a little bit slowly, perhaps trying to shake the temperament of the defenders.
Well, it's worked. The operator has now completely switched position. And so if you want to push in, you can try and catch up, close that distance to lessen the threat of the operator when it returns to the fight.
We see the Owl going in, able to scout too much out, but they do have a little bit of knowledge as far as the positioning goes. High ground after all. The recon arrow going to be coming in. Amphagu staying outside of that line of sight. Tries to turn the corner, but Hendytown too quick on the reaction. Takes down Ampa. Now things are impossible here for the attackers as the plant does go down the cage from the Cypher. Going to be giving them just a moment of breathing room, but Parappa has the op, tries to get the shot, and in fact does land it onto Tendytown. Now as they are trying to hold those more aggressive angles. Not going to be necessary as the final kill does go through, leading to the...
Yeah, Spike went down, but unfortunately just did not have the time before the operator returned to the fight to try and out-position it. And so Parappa gets one of the easiest shots I have ever seen an operator player get granted to, right in the front of, with absolutely nothing to block any of that damage coming on through. And if you're Off Your Feed, now you have to come in with the mindset that you are playing against an operator. And that means that that A site becomes a lot more dangerous, because the operator player on the defensive side immediately has the high ground. You have access to rafters, which means you get such a say in how that crawl from the attacking side is able to move from their spawn onto that site plan. And we can already see Off Your Feed, they're not anywhere near this A site. They aren't even trying to fake it out.
Initially, we see the Omen from the defenders trying to choke off that B push, and it looks like the attack might be a little bit more inclined to that, especially after losing Pigmaster. That Jet going to be a little bit more wary, and we do see them lining up to beat down Ampa early on, though. Mid a little bit more viability as the Owl Drone trying to come out. Scouts out, but quite land the dart. We'll give a bit of information allowing Howard Dean to take the shot. Now it's going to be the Hunter's Fury coming through, not connecting with too much just yet. Not a lot of zoning either, as now the attackers are down 3-4.
Operator as well, not going to get much say in this fight. It is still parked to keep an eye down that mid side. Khan can try to get quickly in with this Vandal. You are going to run into Howard Dean though, and they don't see the Omen. The ace is there. You don't need to be on top of the crate of them. You just need to be behind it.
Yeah, that Omen kind of splitting the vision of the team. It was a 3-on-1 that was essentially cut to a 2-on-1, and Howard Dean just able to make those shots count. Excellent performance there, leading to that ace, as now things looking a little bit better for this defending team and feeling lucky.
Yeah, this is something that we see a lot in Valorant maps as well. Since that defensive side are able to get the ball rolling, they really are just able to keep marking up those points. And Parappa, still with the operator, hasn't actually been potted with this gun for, I believe it's 3 rounds now. Has built up 5,400 credits, so unfortunately the writing is on the wall around the currency. Even if you're able to take the operator player out, they'll still be able to afford the exact same weapon the next round.
We'll have to be careful here. Pigmaster has knives out, but the Omen might start to rotate on them. Have to be very careful. Eventually, Howard Dean is taken down by Pigmaster, and It looks like Off Your Feet already making a decent push towards B. They know that they have the manpower as well, as they're going to have to wait for those reinforcements to come in from A. The Showstopper tries to come in from Ampagoose, nets absolutely nothing, however, taken down by the Sheriff, and things looking very good for Off Your Feet to get some sort of reclamation here. They do have to contest once again with that Operator. It's going to be the Defender Killjoy trying to throw in of for the attackers. The jet dash does come through. Parappa going to be notifying, but not able to do too much as the line of sight is broken. Defender Killjoy eventually does have the lockdown initiated, but it's not going to be enough as the attackers are going to walk away with.
It's very interesting that feeling like you really knew what was working for them, the Operator, because they throw in 2 ultimates to try to set Parappa up to get the shots. The first one, the Showstopper, to try and push Off Your Feet away from just hiding behind those crates and run it once again into the Jet's line of sight with that weapon, and then the second one for the exact same reason. When a lockdown comes through, teams don't really want to stick around. They would have to try and relocate, and Parappa would have been waiting with the Operator. Unfortunately, the Operator goes down before the Killjoy ultimate can really force Off Your Feet out of position, and now you've just thrown 2 defensive ultimates away and completely failed your strategy.
A risky endeavor there, but Parappa looking to perhaps reclaim themselves a little bit as the first kill does come through onto the attacking Off Your Feet. Hammond hold underneath tube, keep eyes out there, but it's Cypher playing in it on it for the time being. Feet push up, try to get some presence on A. It's going to be the Boom bot going in again, trying to suss out whoever might find it. Goose going to be taking the bait there, letting the Rays know where they are. Those gunshots, as not slow, methodical play coming through, but Ammon able to take 1 down, and JK holding this tight corner, going to be catching Tangelo and Tendytown out of position. Quite able to get the advantage over that Killjoy player, and now Spike is down. Citron has to try to regain control and get some kills in the process.
Citron's just completely zoned off this point. You've got the Vandal, but you are 1 versus 4. One of which is an Operator, and you can see the Omen is starting to flank around. He's going to be aggressively pushing through mid. There's absolutely nothing to stop him. Trying to make sure that the Sova isn't on that B side, so they can try and absolutely just sandwich this guy, pinch him. He's got nowhere to run.
Be a very tough spot. 12 seconds left. This Sova in a really uncomfortable position. Citron able to take down 2 though. However, Howard Dean eventually given enough time to rotate. Does get the shot into the back that helps the defender.
It takes a little bit of a time, and yes, you do lose 2 players in the process, but crucially, you don't lose the Operator. And that is something that we've seen really flip the advantage between these 2. Because Off Your Feet like playing with this aggression. When they know that they have the currency and the weaponry on their side, they go in, they hit these points fast. They don't like waiting around, especially when you're playing into that Killjoy utility. Because if you try to go in too slow, you're going to get sectioned out. You're going to get separated with those nano swarms with the turret. Unfortunately, when you play into the Operator, you have to be a lot slower. You've got to try and force the shots out with jiggle peaks. That takes time, and that means that the rest of the team can hunt you down in the meantime.
As we look towards our next round, we do see that Killjoy turn set up and a little bit of the scouting firing off. So not too much damage in, will just a bit of a deterrence, if anything. Howard Dean going to be taking an early kill, but immediately traded back from Pig Master. Does do the 1-for-1 trade there. Be from the Cypher, making sure that everybody's location is revealed, but Attacker's going to be taking opportunity here to plant. Despite being a few members down, have to be very Master gets rotated on by Ammon. Going to be able to land those shots as the Sova does put an end to that life. And now the defenders looking good to come in here and perhaps try to get the defuse. It will be the Faith from Ammon as Parappa does take the shot after the peak comes through. A nice force out there.
Yeah, the fake, and once again, it's that same situation. Khan is just caught out. 1 against so many. There's absolutely no way you can run, and all of it comes down to Amon. That Sova was the absolute standout in that round of Waltham. Waits for the spike, hears it go down, knows exactly where it's going to be. Waits for the Cypher cage to run out, sees Pig, hits the shot, then goes for the fake out. That, like the roll-on effect, then forces the peak. Parappa is able to hit the Operator shot, and suddenly you're 1 against everyone still standing on that defensive side, and you've just got absolutely no say other than trying to take a couple out before you fall.
If you're on the side of off your feed here, Mox, how do you cope with this operator knowing that it seems like you're just getting baited and forced out a lot of the time?
Honestly, you've got to just aggressively bulldoze your way through. You've got 3 ultimates which can be used proactively. Sometimes, you know, you go for that firepower. Parappa will have the operator, will be posted on the B, is already checking the top of those crates to make sure that the Omen has not teleported up there. But Pigmaster is the one that is now going to initiate, and that means that the operator now has to worry a lot more, especially with that lockdown being completely nullified.
Gonna be a tough spot here for the defense. They got real aggressive onto Parappa with that operator, making them have to relocate. Takes a big bite out of the power. Ampagu now has to try to make something happen, get the defuse, or at least reduce the economy of the opposing team. And so far, doing a decent job of it, getting 2 down in Tendy Town and Khan. And now it is just the Jet and Soba. I say just, but it is still numbers advantage for the attacking team. Defuse trying to come out, but Ampagu's not quite able to find it. Instead, it's going to be the Hunter's Fury, making sure that they can't quite find the damage. The Classic not quite able to land the shots onto Citron, and because of that, they're not going to keep the op.
Oh, you can see the thought process too. Goes for the defuse, baits out the Hunter's Fury, uses the Hunter's Fury to work out the Sova's location, picks up the operator knowing that the Sova is going to be caught in the animation of the Hunter's Fury, still has 1 more strike to hit, but then fires with the Classic! If you'd swapped to the operator, if you'd been able to hit that 1 shot, you would have been able to get the Sova out of the way. You might even have been able to force the knives to come out from the Jet.
It is costly there. I mean, at that point, the Jet probably would have recognized that you can't get the defuse, but still, just saving that operator, just minimizing the effect of the Sova, so crucial. But Ampagu's going to be looking to start the defenders off on the good foot. Tangelo taken down early on. Tangelo seems to really favor peeking over towards that A site, and it looks like their opponents and feeling lucky, starting to get wise to it as now the kills do come through. Paint grenades trying to come in from Ampagu's don't land on a whole lot, is now off your feet. To try to push in at man down.
Yeah, but those paint shells, they weren't necessarily to guarantee damage, it was to slow that push down. As once again, off your feet are now getting second thoughts about whether they want to push through, and the Sova drone has now figured it out, and that's when you can Hunter's Fury.
And Khan going to be forced out by the Hunter's Fury right into the waiting arms of Howard Dean. Bomb still in possession of the attackers here, although they do have to be very careful at home, and Howard Dean spotting out. I believe it was the Sova. Going to be backing out of that teleport, just making sure that they stay safe rather than they get the drop and die instantly. Going to be the teleport from Tendy Town now right onto B site. They do go for the plant, but it's still a monumental task to hold this deep to now avoid this retake.
Oh, that is a painful step. Is able to get the plan, but then teleports right into the front of Howard Dean, and that is going to be a very easy defuse.
So far, looking very even between these 2 teams, but it's so far a good opportunity from Feeling Lucky. They do get the flawless for the round, and all starting off with an early kill onto the raid.
Yeah, but remember, Valorant is one of those where it's all about getting as many points as you possibly can when it comes to your attacking rounds. If you can come into your defensive rounds with 6 points on your board, you are more than happy, especially with the score being as equal as it currently is, because now you're the ones who get access to the mid. You're the ones who get to decide the tempo and can play the slow delay games when it comes to that A site.
Certainly, and now we will be seeing that swap come through once again. It's going to be a pistols round off your feed now. In control of this defense, have to try to hold it down, lock it as much as possible. We see that Omen holding B for them, trying to mitigate any of those lines of sight. But it looks like the attackers not too concerned about B as they do push a little bit more aggressively onto A, a little bit more of what we would expect. Not concerning themselves too much with mid, but a wraparound might start to come through from the opposition here. Ampagu's able to take, or rather able to be taken down by Khan. However, Khan eventually traded out by Howard. As we see, the attackers looking to get the spike planted. We do see it go down, so that time will now start to be put onto off your feed. That time pressure, rather, as we do see Teddy Town taking a slow rotation with the Ghost on Omen, eventually getting the shots. Citron making eye contact with their teammate, able to coordinate a push, but it's going to be Teddy Town just going ahead, getting the 3rd kill, and with that, the bomb will be defused as well.
Thanks.
You could see that playing out as well if you just watch the minimap. Because that's why you have to control mid. Feeling Lucky hit the A side as a full team. They completely give up any control on that mid. And Off Your Feed use it as an opportunity to get Pigmaster and their Rays full safely, completely unnoticed from that side of theirs through mid into that A belt, then from the belt into next, into pipes, and suddenly you have complete coverage from the defensive side. You've got the high ground, you've got screens, you've got pipes, and you just press in on the remaining members of Feeling Lucky. This is something that the attacking side cannot allow to happen multiple times. And you know what? Now they're actually looking out, they're watching their backs. You can see their little line of sights now swinging back and forth between in front of them and behind them.
Certainly seems like the defense going to be a little wise to it, immediately gathering all their forces on towards B site, but it's not going to save them as the initial kills go in favor of Feeling Lucky. But Tangelo able to turn things around just a little bit. Bomb is going to go down, but Howard looking to kill everybody before it does. Eventually, it's just going to be the Jet for that retake, and it's going to have to be Off Your Feed being very careful here. Pigmaster does manage to get two, so a good start, but they are not quite out of the woodworks just yet. The reload coming through, does see the bomb, makes a go for it, puts down the smoke, goes for the defuse. The question is, will they have the resolve to hold it? Ammon not quite finding them out. That jet smoke coming in just perfectly, but not perfect enough as Pigmaster eventually taken down. The smoke dissipates, and with that, attackers win another one.
It's the second time as well that Off Your Feet have now tried that rotation of their forces around the backside of Feeling Lucky. And you do that 2 in a row, it's not quite a pattern, but it does become a little bit more consistent and a little bit more expected. 3 times is when Feeling Lucky are really going to start getting wise and putting into play specific strategies to try and catch out this rotation and punish, because it works extremely well when it does, but when that flank doesn't Waltham, you find yourselves man down in these fights and completely splintered off by your own volition.
See if that strategy comes into effect. But JK gonna be taking an early kill off into Tangelo. And Pagoose throwing in some paint shells just to cause a little bit of separation if possible. But the attackers lining up a little bit more heavily towards A. JK once again taking down that Jet, ready to hold down that mid zone. As you were talking, Mox, we already see the 2 kills that came up in this area. And now it looks like the defenders kind of scrambling a little bit. They're not committing to any of the sites in particular. They do have the Cypher on A. It's going to be the smokes trying to come through, blinding them just a little bit. But we see Citron holding this corner, being as dedicated as possible. Going to have to deal with this rotation coming through. The recon arrow causes Citron to lose focus for just a moment. Because of that, JK able to take the rotation around the corner. The shots onto the Cypher as well. Tendytown coming in, cleaning up from behind, but not cleaning up well enough. Ammon able to turn the corner, get the shot, and then almost the plant. It will not go down.
Unfortunately, that all spiraled off losing the Jet so early on, and this is something that Pigmaster has now got to start taking into contemplation. You can't just go for these very greedy flanks, because you're not going to be caught out by a player, you're going to be caught out by the chicken turret. JK was just waiting with that utility down, and already we're going to see Pigmaster completely away from mid. Instead, it will be the Omen who's going to be posted there to try and make sure as the Sova and Jet will actually be a lot closer to the B spawn, want to try and rush out, using that recon bolt to get a little bit of information to see whether the attacking side will be there, and then try to take control of choke if they find anything unsatisfactory. However, the attacking side are actually all around this A side.
They're going to be committing that lockdown come through. Try to enable themselves a little bit of space here, however, Off Your Feet. Not going to be too taken by it just yet. Tangelo tries to get away. Eventually, it's going to be one player who does get detained, but in the meantime, Ambagoose sending out some abilities. A does look pretty possessed by this attacking team, although they don't quite get the spike down immediately. Eventually do get it down, however, as Parappa has to be very careful here, playing with a very light health pool. It's going to be Pigmaster getting the 2 kills that is needed to put their team in advantage, but it's equalized as Pig is eventually taken down. And now we see the push coming through. Omen versus Omen. It's going to be Tendytown who takes the victory on that one. Citron able to get the shot here, and Tendytown getting the final kill onto Eamon, able to get the defuse as well.
There were 2 battling mentalities in that round. Feeling lucky, acknowledge that there's going to be a flank and just say, okay, you can try and flank. That just means you're going to be a player short in the battle. We're going to full stack on a point. We're going to go in fast. We're going to try and take control of it so that by the time your flank actually pulls off and you're able to join the battle, we'll already have won. It will just be one person against the rest of all of us. That doesn't happen because that A side is so brutal when it comes to timing. Off your feet are able to do enough to keep themselves in the fight to stop the attackers from completely overwhelming them, that Pigmaster is actually able to join the fight, comes in from the high ground, takes out two, and sets it up so that you're in a position, if you're feeling lucky, that you don't want to use your Hunter's Fury just to try and win 1 point.
As we see now the attackers carrying Spike over towards that B site. Ampagoose has to be very careful as the Jet does turn the corner, start being able to throw it down some damage. The paint shell goes out, but it's only for the retreat for now this attacking team as they look to figure out their options. It looks like they're leaning towards A. Will the read from the defense come through here though, Mox?
I mean, the Cypher camera is still on A, so you can already see off your feed already rotating from mid and B onto that site. They will be there to try and intercept, feeling lucky as that spike goes through.
Gonna have that information if Khan goes down, which is exactly what Howard ensures, although the rotation already still gonna be a red here from the defenders. As now we see the kills going back and forth, rather one apiece. Angelo going to be brought down eventually. Ampagoose holding up high on these boxes, just trying to maintain a nice bird's nest there, trying to maintain a consistent line of sight. Will eventually bring Citron down. Because of that, it is just the side of the Omen 4 off your feet to try to make something happen. But the question is, do they have enough time to get the kills and the defuse? Certainly going to be tough. Ammon trying to play around those lines of sights, really pressure out Tandytown. Eventually does turn the corner, takes a headshot for their troubles, sent back to spawn.
Really good rotation and positioning as well, coming out from the remaining members of Feeling Lucky. They're able to zone the Omen away from the spike so that when he does try to go for that bait and try and sort of maneuver himself towards it, you're actually caught in between two of you and you don't have any sort of utility left to try and obscure your own existence, and you get very quickly taken out in that bullet fight. With 9 and 8, this is something that we expected. Both of these guys are sitting second and third seed of the tournament, and you can see exactly why. There is some real processing for what's going on as both of these guys get to grips with the other side's strategy. Again, that Killjoy turret going to be there as Howard Dean, seeing that cover, going to just be spraying down, making sure that they're not getting flanked by that pesky Jet trying to move through and take mid up for themselves.
Now it seems like the attackers being a little bit more slow, a little bit more methodical. Ampagoose still going to be peeking in with that raise towards a site. Perhaps trying to see if they can find any vulnerabilities in off your feed, but off your feed not giving themselves away too much here. They're waiting for Ampagoose and the team in hole to really push up and make their moves. Ampagoose not quite able to make the jump there. Parappa, however, going to be giving them a little bit of backup as eventually the Raze and Jet will try to take this dual push around this choke, but we'll see if they can find anything for it. Once again, the paint shell goes out, not able to connect onto too much, but the response remains to be seen as now the defenders haven't given enough time to rotate. Ampagoose sends in the bomb. Buddy probably not going to be able to find too much, certainly not the damage you expect to see. The classics going off reveal the location of that Jet. We see right now the slowness coming in from this attacking team, trying to be real disciplined here, perhaps just trying to win it off of merit alone. But the question is, will they take this rotation? Tandytown waiting for the Killjoy, but JK taking advantage, and now just like that, a targeted strike off your feet. Tangelo able to claim 2 kills with the showstopper, but it might not be enough. Spike has to go down, 5 seconds left on the clock. It's gonna have to be the Raze doesn't quite have enough time, and because of that, the defenders are gonna be taking with the lead here.
You can see the thought process coming up between them again. Because Feeling Lucky know off your feet are in that position where they're going to be coming in on a broken buy, and that's why they don't actually take it to the B side. They take it to the A, where a lot of the defensive force fire comes through at the beginning when you're trying to poke away and keep the attackers at an arm's length, and that's something you can't do with classics. So what off your feet do, once again, is utilize that raise, the paint shells, to make up for the damage that their weaponry is missing, and use the same delay tactics to make sure that even though Feeling Lucky are able to get onto the site, it's without enough time to actually get that spike down.
We look ahead now, feeling lucky. Going to be looking for that mid presence, a very strong mid presence, but Apagoose perhaps a bit too strong in there as they are taken down by a headshot from the Vandal. Tendy Town ensuring the victory in that 1v1. Parappa barely able to land on towards Kitchen, but Tendy Town again catching them out, just turns the corner, puts down the Jet, and now things looking a little bit grim for these attackers as they need to get this bomb down. They need to get it placed. JK also getting caught out. Tendy Town just seems to be everywhere at once, or at least everywhere that's important. And Howard Dean has to be very careful pushing through this Omen smoke. Tendy Town is right on the other end, but Howard Dean eventually going to be getting the kill, picking up the Vandal as well. Not able to pull it down fast enough, got caught out with their ability, and because of that, the defenders will be taking another point.
Pigmaster has the operator, and we know how that turned the tables for the defensive side when these teams were swapped before Waltham. This is going to be extremely dangerous territory. We're feeling lucky to cross through, especially because that operator is now going to be set up on the high ground. So if you try and go for any sort of greedy play, if you don't go for that peak strategy, one person is going to very quickly be losing their heads, as just the difference in height makes it so easy for that shot to line up without you being seen.
We will now see exactly how this attacking team chooses to play into this operator, and right into the line of sight is apparently the route Amon chooses. Pigmaster putting them down, and because of that, it's going to be the rotation coming through from Pigmaster, eventually back on to that high ground to maintain that control, that area dominance that operator can certainly provide. And now the attackers a little bit split here, 2 towards B, 2 towards A. Spike also moving towards that A site. Howard Dean gonna be very careful here to take these slow peaks. Doesn't quite take it with their teammate. Tries to get the shots out. Can't quite connect as Citron using their ability to try to get some recon information. Gonna catch out that Omen. Gonna at least get the information there. Throws in the Hunter's Fury. A little bit optimistic there, but will be able to cause Howard Dean to have to back up, or at least stay hidden for the time being, as it looks like a lot of the action still going down towards A, and because of that, the Spike is going to get basically a free plant, although the retake will be in existence.
Yeah, you've still got to contest with the operator, and while yes, you've been able to get that Spike down, you lost 3 players of your 5 going for that bait play. Now the defense still having their entire team can just stack themselves around this map and press in on you.
No stack needed as Tendy Town takes the 2 remaining members out with the headshots from the Vandal. Just looking at pretty aggressive, and it's going to be Tangelo going for that defuse, building up one more tick towards that showstopper, which can be pretty devastating if I'm being honest.
It was a beautiful thought process as well, and it would have worked if they'd been able to have more members survive on B, or even if they'd been able to cripple the defense, remove a couple of their members to make sure that they didn't come in with a full 5, because you did get the Spike down. You managed to bait the entire defense, including that operator, to move into the B site. They were able to sell it. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to continue that momentum, and now the attacking side will be on a little bit of a broken by coming in scatterings of light armor, stingers, and specters, and that means that the operator rates as the fight doesn't even break out before one falls.
Pigmaster is taken down in kind. That means that op not going to be ineffective. I believe the Jet was on the high ground, meaning that the operator probably going to be less than accessible to the majority of the field. Con going to be caught out by the recon arrow, making themselves a little bit more revealed, a little bit more vulnerable. However, not going to be able to be instantly capitalized upon. I do see the bomb buddy going out as Parappa trying to hold it this high with the Vandal. The location slowly being revealed to their opponents, but the attacking team knows that the defense has to try to go for that defuse, so they're just not going for that peak any sooner than they need to. Showstopper does eventually come out. The question is, will the raise land it? She does not. Lands instead the shipping container. The defuse trying to come out, the Soba being that enforcer, Citron able to ensure that the defuse can go through. The defenders 1 point away.
Unfortunately, once again, feeling lucky have some real game knowledge, because the tempo changes completely based on which weaponry they're actually going up against. Even with Stingers and Spectres, they move in so quickly against the operator that it just doesn't have time to breathe. You're able to get their first shot, but then you're immediately punished for it and overwhelmed with sheer numbers. And then as soon as the operator player is out, they know that they don't have to move in quickly, that there's nothing really to punish them if they want to try and play it slow and wait for the defenders to make their own mistakes. However, once again, the defense had actually sent Tendy Town this time on that flank to try and move through from Garage and move on to the rest of the team who just got caught out between two players on one side and one on the other.
They have to be feeling lucky who need to maintain their composure here. They need to get this victory. Ampagoose pushing up with their Killjoy. Not quite able to push in at the same time, though, as that paint shell does come out. Eventually, JK is avenged as the kill gonna be closed on their opponents there. Parappa trying to fire through the Omen smokes, not able to find too much, as now Khan has to try to just wait it out. Pigmaster able to take the shot onto Parappa through the smoke, it seemed, through the jet smoke, rather. As now Khan awaiting their turn. It's going to be 2-on-3. The defenders do have to go in towards that defuse, or at least try to get the kills onto the offense. Again, the econ is so fragile right now, but the attackers are going to come up victorious.
Oh, it is extremely close between both of these teams at the moment. Off Your Feed may still be on match point, may still have access to free ultimates, but feeling like you really do understand the team that they're playing against. Off Your Feed have been analyzed, they've been downloaded, and while Pigmaster does have another operator, we have seen time and time again that feeling like you know exactly what to do. We've now seen, I believe it's 3 times, this operator Pigmaster be baited first from out rotating, then for going for that first greedy shot, and immediately being punished for it.
Interesting kind of dichotomy between the two jet players. As now we look ahead, Amon are going to be sending in the Owl drone, doing a little bit of scouting, can roughly clear B, knowing that nobody is holding too far aggressively. It's going to be a little bit of the conga line coming in from the attackers as they do pass up that ult orb, not wanting to give away their position too early on. Have to be very careful, though, as sights can be had towards that B. We see the Sova Citron trying to gather themselves. Will be caught out by the Recon arrow. And it's going to be the Hunter's Fury catching out Citron. A rough area, not a whole lot of rotation that can be had there. Eventually does manage to avoid the bulk of that damage. Spike getting planted as now the attackers a little bit worse for wear here. 2 members managed to die on site. As well, that Recon Bolt giving away a few of their locations. Gonna be tough here, but Pigmaster trying to take on high with that operator. The smoke going up right onto the spike, allowing their team a little bit of cover. The shot connects onto JK. The question is, will the defense get the defuse here? Parappa trying to hold themselves accountable, but can't happen as the defenders will be getting the final defuse. 13-10 ends it here on Icebox.
Beautiful play coming out from Parappa, not just with the operator, but using that Clyde burst to just plant it onto their team to give the cover onto the spike, which then forces out that attacking side. They have to try and contest that. They have to try and stop the spike from being diffused. Otherwise, they're going to lose the round, even if they're able to kill the rest of the defense. And once again, we really are seeing a very fluent conversation where both of these teams understand their opponent, and it's those tiny little moments that swing one side in favor. And Waltham, this is a best of 3 series. I know that we've already got Off Your Feed walking away with the first map, but I would be more than surprised if we didn't get to see that third part popping up soon.
Yeah, with the scoreline as we just saw, it's definitely looking like it's going to be a competitive one, folks. But with that being said, we are going to be taking a quick break, so make sure you tune in for the back half of this matchup between Off Your Feed and Feeling Lucky after the break. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to CEA. We are in our second game of the semifinals between Off Your Feet, Feeling Lucky. We just got off the back of Icebox Mox, and now we get to take it to something a little bit more traditional, a little bit more contemporary, perhaps, in Bind.
I mean, is it ever a Valorant series if Bind doesn't show up at one point, Waltham? I'm pretty sure Valorant exists solely for Bind's creation. But no, it is a beautiful map, and what's more, it is beautiful for a couple of operator shots as well, and that I think is something that really dictated the flow between both of these teams. They have some really capable agents when it comes to the operator and the jet, but we're actually not seeing the jet come out from either of these guys. Instead, Off Your Feet will actually have swapped in a breach, feeling lucky opting in for the Phoenix. So maybe we're not going to get to see the greedy op shot through Garden, which I always find to be a very punishing but also rewarding experience when you're able to line up the shots. But the breach is just all around better when it comes to slowing things down. And that's something that Off Your Feet were able to do exceptionally well when it came to that A defense of Icebox, and it makes more than enough sense that they want to lean onto that tactic here.
Certainly going to want to control the tempo here as much as possible as we see the attackers immediately trying to trade shots. By carrier does go down when JK takes a shot from the classic, the recon arrow. Gonna be going out, landing onto a few of the defenders as now we look towards Off Your Feet. That breach once again setting up those abilities to really slow the push coming through here from the attackers. They are able to reclaim the spike and get themselves in a position to rotate. They are down to one member, but this early on might not be as crucial as other losses. We now look in with that Ampagoose on that raise, trying to control that hookah area, just getting some sightlines onto B, seeing what they can perhaps find out.
Has baited out the Sova utility as well, so they think that Spike will be coming through that B site, and it's actually sitting on the A. Tangelo is zoned off into showers, has to make sure that they're not trying to swing around and solo them up with a back flank, and the defense does have control of the ladder corner of this part. Unfortunately, they don't have control of where that Spike is situated.
They're going to be seeing Pigmaster using those cameras, allowing themselves to get that information, that knowledge that they need to perhaps mitigate the attackers a little bit here. But Parappa going to be taking advantage of that Cypher. It's going to be Tangelo holding down the bomb while their teammate tries to go for the defuse, but Ampagoose going to be taking down two. As Tendy Town has to try to back up a little bit. The Det Pack coming through, trying to get the better of the defense. Question is, will they defuse in time? No, they will not, and it looks like the attackers are going to be scoring the first point.
Game sense is something that we see both of these teams have in absolute spades. And feeling lucky, once again, they went for this very bait-like play. We saw it on Icebox, we're now seeing it on Bind. They used the raise, the satchel, the paint shells to try and make it seem as if they're present in Hooker, and then that buys them all of the time they need to get the spike onto the A side, and then it's just the bait out, the delay strategy to make sure that Off Your Feet have to rotate their pieces from that B side onto the A side, and they just don't feel comfortable trying to engage in the firefight before everyone is present, and that means that Feeling Lucky just have done their job. Yes, they go down, but they've burned enough time off the clock to make sure that spike goes for the fuse. And now Off Your Feet coming in onto the pistol. The second round will still be on pistols. We're seeing a frenzy in the arms of the Omen. So Feeling Lucky can get as aggressive as they want. They can absolutely shout their presence in Hooker from the rooftops with this drone, because there's nothing that Off Your Feet can really do until they get close enough to fire back.
Do see Amon and the Rays looking to perhaps get a little bit of positioning here. Going to be shots exchanged early on. The Recon Bolt going to be revealing Parappa and a few more, but there's only so much Off Your Feet can do. Con taking down Ampagoose is exactly that. As they turn the corner, though, caught out by Amon. Going to be the Omen now taken down. Amon getting their third for this round. It's just the Rays who looks to contest here. Tangelo has to be very careful as JK able to take the shots, and with that, the attackers put their second point on the board. Not too surprising there.
Feeling Lucky picked this map, and we can start to see why. They're very comfortable, especially on that B side. They know that there is going to be a presence in Hall, so they send one out to make sure that they cut it out, and that means that then they can keep hold of Elbow, wait there for the presence of the defenders when they come from the retake to try and come through window and cut them off before they get anywhere near that spike.
As we look ahead, we're seeing these teams get lined up. The defense, once again, looking a little bit stacked on both sides, not committing too much to either end. The wiser option here. But we're seeing Tangelo walk through those showers, ready to just perhaps peek out, see what they can find. The Sova Recon Arrow. Not going to be finding a whole lot on its own. Citron able to take down Ampagoose as the rotation does become a little bit forced. It's going to be the firewall coming up from Parappa as well. The hot hands trying to come out, thrown in just to buy a little bit of zoning and space. Sees the arrows as well from the idea that they are there, trying to exchange shots. Peeks around the corner almost as quickly as they expose themselves. Being very careful here, but Khan throwing in the paranoia, trying to capitalize upon it with their Sova. Eventually, it is going to be the Phoenix taken down as the defuse will now come in, putting the defenders on the board.
So, Feeling Lucky tried to go for that same play, but instead of keeping a hold of Elbow for themselves, they tried to zone the defense out of it with the Blaze Wall. And that allowed the spike to go through, but unfortunately you didn't have the same eyes from your position in that round as you did when you were standing in Elbow to actually cut the defense off as they come for that retake, which means that Hooker, that window, is completely free and you just get surrounded on all sides. And yes, you're holding onto one corner, but Point B has a lot more than one corner to try and take control of.
See if perhaps mistakes can be learned from in this round. Once again, gate's going to be opening up. We'll see the attackers leaning towards that A at the start. We see Pigmaster and the Rays both in showers. Howard Dean getting flashed out. Tangelo able to take them on that, following the back of that breach flashbang. As now Ampa looking to hold up in hookah once again. Has the utility online minus that bomb, but he does have the paint shells, but has to be very careful. That's Sova and Omen holding too far towards that long to really be seen from Hookah, as now the attacking team starts to make the rotation on to the point. It will be the Omen taken down, but nobody seems to suss out that Sova, so we'll see if Ampagoose does eventually get taken down, and indeed Citron able to find it, but that's a trade back with Amon. As we see Parappa actually having the crosshair control there to take down Tendytown, despite the ultimate trying to come through. The spike does get planted, and now Tangelo is going to be the Rays who holds this hookah ground. Takes a flashbang, a curveball for their efforts. Now the showstopper is going to be spelling a little bit grim news for Parappa, who walks right into the shell. And with that, the defender is going to be able to get another defuse. That was a pretty close one, it seemed, Mox.
That was a nail biter where there were points where either team could have walked out with that point underneath their belt. A little bit of a mistake coming out from off your feed, having two players in gardens and no one actually watching their back. They thought that Hooker had been completely abandoned. The paint shells had not come through, blaring the Race's presence this time, instead Feeling Lucky took it a lot quieter and they were able to reap the rewards completely unnoticed by the time they actually get onto that site and can then turn their attention to the players in gardens. But then all of that advantage gets lost when it's down to that 1 versus 1 and the Race showstopper and Parappa unfortunately just the wrong moment.
We're seeing off your feed have a lot of Vandals in their arsenal. Not as much strength coming in from Feeling Lucky. Be pretty careful here. Ampagoose able to take one off the field, but they do trade their own life for that effect. Now we're looking ahead. We do see off your feed Citron continuing to keep eyes on Hookah, making sure that that Race does not prove to be the continued pest there. As the attackers looking to line up at a short, trying to get nestled up right in front of that teleporter. Not sure if they'll be looking to take it, but it does seem that the Cypher, the Sova, going to be backing out, regrouping for the time being. Have to be a little bit careful here as the defense going to get more and more nestled in with their manpower, looking right about even.
A definite has been made though from off your feed on how they handle this piece. That you can actually see they're not around gardens. They've continuously got an eye, one player present in elbow to make sure that even without the raised Hooker does not just get completely given over for free, as Feeling Lucky will start to move in. Owen's still going to be a little bit of a presence on that A side, trying to create noise, making sure that off your feed's attention is split as the rest of the members press onto the B side.
Gonna be JK throwing in the cage, trying to limit their sights, but it doesn't matter if you get stuck with the recon. A bullet gonna be giving you away your position either way. And Parappa taking it down a 1, but there's only so much you can do. The spike does go down and off your feet, has to go in for the retake. Eventually do. It's gonna be Citron with the 2 kills coming through on the Sova. And now with the defuse coming in from Tangelo, we're seeing the lead go over to the defenders.
It's that adaptation that really saves off your feed. They don't necessarily know that Feeling Lucky are going to be hitting that B site because there's still a lurk, and you can actually see that Off Your Feed did not entirely abandon the A site because of it. In fact, even the way they positioned themselves around the B towards the back to make sure that they had the easiest rotation possible if it did turn out to be just one big old headless chicken hunt, they can just very quickly get there fast and completely uncontested. And I think that's something that we really are going to see as the series moves on. Both of these guys are very even when it comes to mechanicals, very even when it comes to game sense. It all comes down to that adaptation to the other side's tactics.
Game of inches is exactly what it might be here, Mox, as Apagoose once again going in through this hookah. Has to be very careful though. This time the Omen hanging a little bit further back. Gonna be putting up some smoke, making it a little bit more difficult for the team to push through that hookah. Gonna be the Hunter's Fury going out from the attacking team. It's eventually a 2-4-1 trade there in favor of the attackers, as we are seeing JK try to get themselves relocated, regrouped with their team. Ampagoose throwing in the showstopper, gets the 1 kill on to Tendy Town. As now things looking very good for the attackers. They are going to be going in for that plant. We see Pigmaster coming in from the defender's spawn, able to take down a 1, uses the location to give the enemy team away, but they lose their own life for it. And now Tangelo has to be very careful here. Not careful enough as JK takes the shot and the attackers even up the board.
Unfortunately, you're walking straight into the line of fire in that one, and there's nothing you can do as a race. You don't have anything that can try and obscure your presence. It's not like a Jet or an Omen where you can drop something like a Cloud Burst or a Dark Cover to try and keep yourself safe as you go for that bait plate. No. And Feeling Lucky, they know it. They position themselves into gardens slightly off so that they're unseen before the race actually announces their presence. And then you just pop up, you fire the shots off, and you bag yourself a point.
As we look once ahead at the Arsenal, a little bit more favorable here. The run it back from Parappa caught out immediately. A rough spot to be in for sure, as that Phoenix is now gone and out of the fight for this round. We're seeing here Howardine can go in through showers, knowing that there's going to be a few members from the defense there. Manages to take the 1 shot onto the breach. Tendy Town now going to be taken down. The location revealed of Howard, however, does have that teleport to get themselves repositioned, perhaps fool the opposing team. Pigmaster, again, has those cameras enabling them to get the sights. Maybe the Hunter's Fury coming out on the B site. As we look, not a lot of damage going in. In fact, we'll be revealing where that Sova is. Recon arrow trying to come through as JK does go in for the plant. Spike does go down, but Khan able to get the better of JK afterwards. Now enabling themselves and the defenders to get an opportunity for defuse, put some pressure on to this race, which is holding in that box, trying to play very carefully. Eventually does get taken down off your feet, looking a little bit overwhelming there, as they are now going to be able to get the defuse very easily.
Beautiful Hunter's Fury coming out, and Hunter's Fury is an ultimate that's a very strange one. It doesn't necessarily always find value by getting a kill, but just by existing. Because that's a delay tactic. They use the Hunter's Fury to make sure that Feeling Lucky don't feel comfortable to try and walk forward, and that allows Off Your Feed to get the rotation from the A side where they've been busy chasing Howard all the way onto the B side. So when Feeling Lucky are ready to push in, when the Hunter's Fury has run out, they're contesting the entire team rather than a fragment of it, which they can very quickly overwhelm.
Now we look ahead, and things still looking pretty rough for the Arsenal of Feeling Lucky. Off Your Feet still having quite a few rifles in their hands. We do see now the aggression just coming out from this attacking team. They're just trying to get up into the faces of their opponents, but they lose 1 in JK. As now Pigmaster holding this angle, trades a couple of shots but has to back out. Eventually able to take down Howard on that Omen, just the superior firepower coming out to show there. As Tangelo throws in the showstopper, able to get the 1 kill straight on as you like. It's gonna be the Boom Buddy going in. And now it's the Owl Drone as well, gonna be sweeping out Tangelo. Doesn't have the opportunity to take out the Recon Bolt just yet. Actually, just letting it run its course. Spike is down for the attacker, so they have to try to make a move towards it, Mox.
Citron as well, just holding in heaven. Going to have a lot of knowledge. Recon Bolt does get destroyed, but it still manages to tag a couple of players, and you've still got Tendytown with an access to a lot of that breach utility, as it is now just 1 Sova versus 4 players on the side of that defense, and that is not a fight you're going to be able to win.
Certainly not one Ammon could have much hope for there. Not the full team kept alive for the defenders, but they will still be walking away with the point. Only 1 member dropping. As now the ops are going to start becoming into play here, Mox, and we'll see how it goes this time around.
And this, I think, is why Feeling Lucky are running the Phoenix. Because off your feet are running the breach in full knowledge that Feeling Lucky like to go in fast and like try and contest the operator with speed, and by lessening its threat by as much as they possibly can. But Feeling Lucky likewise have adapted to their opponent by running the Phoenix, that when the op does come out, you can just curveball and try and lessen its damage that way.
A good tactic if it does indeed come to fruition. Ambagoose once again in that hookah. Could be mitigated by that smoke coming through from the Omen. Oftentimes cutting a lot of those sight lines out, making it all that much more risky to get anywhere towards point if you have to push blindly through. But Pigmaster going to be taking the shot, landing right onto Parappa, as now JK starting to take the lead. The Tripwire going to be catching them out. Omen teleports right ahead, giving the team perhaps a moment to breathe. Pigmaster trying to go for the raise, can't quite connect the shot. Has to be playing very carefully here, as it does try to fire some shots through the boxes. Believe it also connected through the raise, just not as effectively. Pigmaster trying to do a little bit of a pincer maneuver here. Howard Dean not quite having their sights on the doorway, able to be taken down by Tendytown. And now Off Your Feet once again has this manpower. They have the positioning that seems to be necessary for them. Going to be going in with the teleport. Going to be collecting on that. As we see Tendytown continuing to try to gain some positioning, slow them down with that ultimate coming through, jostling them and members of their team as well. But more importantly, the stuns coming through allow Khan to push in, bring up the attackers from their lives, and the fuse now going to be going in full effect.
Just as we saw in Icebox, there we go, Tendytown's going to be able to pick the op up. Everything changes when that weapon comes through. Because Feeling Lucky, yes, they're able to get the spike down with time on their side, but the op shots, even though they're not hitting, you hear them constantly through that engagement. Pigmaster firing shot after shot after shot to completely limit Feeling Lucky's mobility. The entire attacking side gets pushed forcibly into lamps so that they can't contest when that diffuse comes through. In fact, they don't even get much of a say in the firefight that follows, all because that operator is still very much existing.
Recon Bolt gonna be going out immediately. Destroyed there. Citron gonna be getting the knowledge of a few members here as well, with the Owl Drone going in. It's gonna be the curveball coming through, but doesn't quite connect. In fact, Spike goes down right on to that B long route. It's gonna be tough for the retake. You gotta anticipate for the attackers to come in here. Tendytown trying to throw in some smokes. Ambagoose getting caught out by the bomb buddy. Angelo having it pop right in front of their face. Gonna be throwing out a couple of paint cans as well. Pigmaster has the op, doesn't quite connect the shot, and because of that, Howard Dean is going to capitalize, able to get the wall bang through that container, but doesn't see Tangelo on their side, and because of that, they will be cleaned up by the Vandal.
Defensive side still has access to Hunter's Fury as well, and Tangelo, because the defensive side were able to win that round, was able to pick the op up, and so Pigmaster once again going to be handling that. And something that's very interesting for me is that Parappa, who arguably was put into this composition for Feeling Lucky to contest the operator's presence, has, I think, seen the operator fight once and immediately been taken out in it. You're placing him into a position where you think the operator is going to be playing when it comes to that B-long site. We often see the operator player posted there to get a very early pick, immediately find an advantage, and you will find an immediate advantage when it comes to that attacking side with the numbers. but you still have not been able to contest this operator, which is now going to be starting to move its way towards B.
The location given up there. We'll see if the operator comes into full effect here. Parappa still there to be able to contest, has those curve balls, might be already. As Pigmaster pulls out the Sheriff and they start to take these rotations through to the side of B. Howardine we going in with the teleport, clearing out that A side, or at least getting onto Heaven on the A side, but taking down almost immediately. Tangelo able to get the headshot with the Vandal. And now with this, the attackers looking a little bit more even keel for numbers, but they're just trying right now to outpace that operator. Perhaps try to get the defenders into a position where that operator's not quite set up as they'd like to be.
Aemon hasn't been spotted out either. In fact, no one has been currently spotted out on the A side, so the operator is still very unsure about where it should be, and it is not in Heaven right now.
And it's going to be Tangelo taking the shot onto the Phoenix, who had to run it back, so now it's just the one operator against two members. And the dual push might be a little bit tough here, especially with the Recon Bolt giving away Pigmaster's location. Not able to take it down fast enough. Eamon gets the shot with the Vandal.
Feeling like he plays a long game and they're able to find a lot of reward from it. Because the second that they're actually able to take the Omen out in Heaven, they make it seem as if they've completely given up on that A side. They make sure that they don't get spotted out, and so the operator does not feel comfortable enough to be there to get caught out if it is a big old fake out too far away from that B site, and so swings away from Heaven, does not safeguard a shot, which allows Feeling Lucky to very quietly worm their way onto the side into a position where the operator's threat is entirely cut down. And this is something that they're going to have to do a couple more times if they want this point divisiveness to start to narrow even more.
Ready for that last round of the half. JK going to be taking down the breach early despite the flashbang going through, landing on a large portion of the team. Going back and forth in terms of these kills. Amon trying to hold that hookah zone. It's going to be the paranoia coming in from the Omen. It doesn't do a whole lot to be pushed up with. The bomb does eventually get planted as Citron taken down within that container. Parappa going to be using that firewall, giving themselves a little bit of space. Caught with their abilities out. Pigmaster does receive the curveball for their efforts, but not too bothered by it, as the kills once again still do go. We're going to be swapping that for the Phantom, as now their location is revealed, but there's only so much you can do when you know there's two members still alive, including Tangelo, who still has all the utility, able to just create a ton of pressure. Bomb Buddy not quite going out, waiting for the push the good old-fashioned way. Eamon able to be taken down there. Tangelo going to be throwing it in the showstopper, taking it down. Pigmaster might as well. You're not going to get it back.
Oh, and I love as well how close that Tangelo actually holds to Garden, so that if Feeling Lucky, if Eamon wants to try and opt into the Hunter's Food to stop the diffuse comes through, then the Raze can actually move up very aggressively, and yes, you might lose your Cypher, who's trying to go for the diffuse with that ultimate, but the Sova would likewise be dead because you'd be caught in the animation. It's a really good decision coming out from that pairing as we head into the side swap. Off your feed will now be on the attack, and that means that expect a lot of fast-paced action. They've still got the breach, they've still got those flashes that can initiate through the walls, and that can be something that can be used to spook Feeling Lucky away from holding close.
Exactly what the thought process is here. Off your feet, going to be going in once again. The Rays sent towards that hookah zone, but a lot of members on B. Tangelo throwing in those paint cans early on, trying to get some sort of clearance. And sure, that hookah is a little bit safe, but will be revealing themselves to the defenders. They're now going to be having eyes trained up there. Defenders not choosing to hold as far towards along as perhaps the other side when we were seeing them defend, but now the spike is lined up once again towards B in that hookah zone. And off your feet just being really patient right now, Mox.
They've revealed themselves on A short as well, so you can actually see the rotation coming through from Feeling Lucky all around that map as they start to position themselves a little bit further around A. It's only two people, and the Omen's even floating over from defender spawn back to that A side. And now off your feed, they've been able to sell the bait, they can move on to B.
Of course, those teleporters coming in big. The shots onto Ampagoose. Gonna be taking them down. And Angelo looking to make it a double as well. They might as well continue to put up the pressure. The push from Amon right onto a paint grenade is gonna cost them their lives. They do eventually remove the Rays from the equation. But now the defenders are going to be in a very rough spot as they are suffering for those numbers. The Phoenix still in the game. Parappa able to take down Citron, and it's all about how quickly they want to take that defuse. The bait tries to come out. Paranoia from the Omen doesn't quite connect as they needed it to, and Pigmaster has to try to get the 2 shots, does eventually land it very close there, but Pigmaster able to pull it for their team.
Positioning as well. Both of these guys, when it comes to that attacking side on B, have really good positioning. As soon as that spike comes down, pulling back to garden so that you can bouncer the diffuse. You have 2 players, so if one person goes down, the other person can still find the pick. And 9 to 4 is something that could be extremely close if feeling lucky, are able to start moving forward a little bit more aggressively, because that I think is something that Off Your Feet are using to a lot of reward. The fact that the defense are moving their forces very much freely around this board whenever they see so much as a sign of a single attacking agent.
We now see Parappa holding this corner in showers very aggressively. Might not serve them too well here, however, as there's not a lot of opportunity for the push to come through. JK getting taken down by Pigmaster despite the recon dart getting stuck in. As now the numbers are up for this attacking team. Pigmaster going to be picking up the spike, ready to go move towards B, as it looks like the defense kind of cycling themselves towards A. And they're going to be caught out, at least Howard will be caught out because of that. A rough spot to be in, and now Off Your Feet able to get a little bit more free movement towards B. These flashes will come out, slowing them for just a moment, but it's gonna be the defense who comes in through the teleporter. One goes down, and Parappa able to take the shot with the shorty, getting the kill. Gonna be eventually trading that out. As we look ahead, the bomb is in effect. It's gonna slowly be ticking down. Amon just being very cautious here, slowly checking their point. They know that the attackers are around here, and it seems like they are surrounded. Tendytown ready with that flashbang. Gets the Phoenix as the rotation is made. Attackers will be cleaning up despite Parappa getting the 1 kill onto the breach.
Yeah, feeling like you take their time, you can actually see, looking at the walls, trying to figure out where that Cypher camera is, whether that position will be given away. They do come from 2 angles, so they have the best coverage they can with 2 different agents, but Off Your Feet just having the numbers, they're able to have 2 posted in gardens, while 1 person is actually wrapping around elbow into hold to try and cut off if feeling like you take a little bit too long. Try and move forward aggressively, and that's just something that happens at Valorant when you are at that numbers disadvantage. The other side will always use that to cover much more space and just try and overwhelm you.
Smoke coming through from the attacking Odin. Off Your Feet initially going to be throwing in quite a few ultimates here, but they suffer losses. The run it back actually backfiring on Parappa. They are able to get 1, but they are greeted at their spawn with Off Your Feet's raise. And now Pig gonna be trying to hold with their teammate. Citron able to get the plant, as now the defense has to try to go in for this retake. We see Amon going up towards that high. Howard Dean going in through that spawn route. Right now, just some very slow, methodical play. Trying to come through here. Amon probably gonna throw in a couple of respawns, maybe a shock dart as well. Trying to get some sort of damage, make the attacking team a little bit uncomfortable here. Eventually, Pigmaster does go down, bring up the spot on the bomb. Now it is all free for the defuse. It's going to come in via the raise.
This is what the defense needed. The economy on your side. That's something that Valorant is very punishing and suffocating when it comes to that attacking side. If the defense is up in currency above your head and can buy things like operators, or even sometimes force themselves onto marshals, it is so hard to actually gain any sort of ground, and often you actually need to throw in bodies to be able to buy up that space, whereas the defense can just hold a little bit further back and pepper damage at you from afar with very little consequences if they play their positioning right. And we're actually going to see not the operator come out, but it is still a pretty even fight when it comes to firepower, as both of those guys will be buying in to the rifles.
Normally the long range, something we talk about, but the short range definitely going to be a factor here with the judge coming in full effect for the defensive team, I do believe, as now we're just seeing Off Your Feet try to suss out, minimize the utility coming in from the defenders, do that successfully, take it down that Cypher camera. Not going to be a factor here as Ampagoose holding up on high, making sure not to keep eyes towards that gardens as the Omen is there covering, continually taking those cautious peeks, perhaps trying to catch anybody out at a sudden moment, but eventually will be redirecting their attention. The smoke's going to be coming through. A lot of attention being paid towards A by these Omen smokes, but not a whole lot by the attackers. The defense now going to be lacking for numbers towards B unless the rotation does start to come through. We do see now a very slow continuation from Off Your Feet, who just look to push this very casually, Mox.
This is something that Off Your Feet have done a couple of times. They know that feeling like he can get a little bit antsy. Tangelo was debating
30
about
seconds
dropping
left.
onto window and through window onto the Omen's head. That is a very precarious position indeed. Free play is going to have a perfect time on you.
Dean gets the shot onto Tangelo. Didn't even really need to give away their position, but the spike carrier will be down, meaning that somebody needs to get the plant. And with 10 seconds left, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Amon able to get the last kill onto their opposing Sova, and with that, some restabilization for the defense.
Feeling lucky, figured out that Off Your Feet like to push slowly, like to wait until they themselves actually play themselves out of these points when it comes to that positioning and repositioning game. And we actually see the Sova sort of float between the B and the A, but Howard just sitting underneath the window, knowing that even if there is a presence on the A side, there is likely to be just as much of a presence on the B side, holding the metal. And because you don't see anyone in back, you think it's going to be safe. You walk straight onto the Omen's head, and you get absolutely decimated. As now, for the first time, we're actually going to be seeing Off Your Feet in a little bit of a precarious position when it comes to that weaponry. They do have 10 points, 4 points ahead of their opponents, but their firepower this round is lacking.
When you talk about that firepower, you of course have to mention the operator that's going to be coming in from the Omen for feeling lucky. That's going to be Howard holding on to it, just maintaining those lines of sight down B long, making sure that anybody who pokes their head through there are going to be suffering the bad end of a large caliber bullet. As we see the raise for the attacking team continuing to hold up in hookah. We hear a couple of those abilities come out from both sides, it seems. As now the attackers, aside from that one raise, going to be lining up towards A. They're gonna have that thought of the operator in their minds. However, they'll have to be very careful. Early shot from Ampagoose lands onto Tangelo, sees that bomb buddy go out and knows that they can perhaps follow up with it. The shots continue to fly as Parappa throws in the curveball, catches one out, but the shock arrow keeps them cornered for just a moment. Now the defender's going to be able to rotate, send their reinforcements from B in. It's all up to Tendy Town, however, as it's just that one breach who takes the bomb, fakes out towards a B, and has to try to get a quick plant.
You just want the currency for the plan. If you can try and get this operator away from Howard, then even better. That will be all, though, goes for the operator play instead of getting that spike down, and because Feeling Lucky still have their members around the fight, will be able to pick the operator up. And I think that's something that Off Your Feet knew. They were coming in with a disadvantage. They're a team that likes to go very quickly in these things when you have the space to do so, especially when you're going up against an operator, and that playstyle doesn't so much line up when it comes to being on the more broken buy. They have to go a lot slower. And that means that Feeling Lucky just have much more time, not only to position themselves where they feel the most comfortable, but also to try and go for those very early kills that immediately tip the game in balance of the defensive side.
Again, Howard holding those along sight lines with that operator, but it seems like Off Your Feet, not content to let them get those shots. It will be Citron who takes the lead. Has to be very careful here. Might throw out the recon arrow, might throw out the shock dart as well. Legs. Howard Dean not actually able to connect that shot. Looked like it may have hit the legs there, but Howard Dean now going to get caught out in a very uncomfortable situation. Tries to teleport away, but taken it down by the Hunter's Fury. That is a costly mistake that Off Your Feet going to absolutely be able to capitalize on. Ampagoose still holding this area very dominantly, not caught out by the recon arrow, taking one kill with them before they leave. And now it's going to be JK who has to try to reclaim it as well, revealing the locations of the attackers. It's just the lone Soba. Amon has to try to make something happen, but they only have 2 shock arrows to their names. Question is, what will they try to do here? The cage does dissipate eventually for those attackers, and has to be very careful of hookah, as we do still see presence there for the attackers.
Yeah, Breach gonna be waiting, seeing the Sova before the Sova sees them, sees the Cypher camera, able to take that out, but that will reveal that he's starting to move forward towards that spike.
But it will not be enough to save a Pig Master. The stun comes through. The breach not quite pushing up with it. Citron as well. Amon has to wait for the plant, but it's Tendytown who throws in the stun. Now has the operator of their own. Changes it out for the Vandal. Able to get that one quick shot and then swap it right back in.
And now we might actually get to see the operator versus the operator, as Tendytown is able to use those toesies just to dodge that spike radius. And there we go. We're gonna get to see operator now in the hands of Off Your Feed. Feeling lucky, not actually going to be putting an operator up on the opposing end, and that means that you can already see the defense not going for those peaks onto V-Long, not wanting to meet the end. A little bit of their own medicine.
Yes, this should do.
Yeah, it's already a very intimidating spot for this defense as well. We see a JK with the cameras holding on with that judge. Gonna have to have some pretty aggressive positioning to really get the full damage impact there, as that camera does get taken down. JK just kind of looking in disbelief for a moment, ready to take that turn. We see Pig with that operator. Amon has the owl drone that's going in. Doesn't quite see the Cypher though, as he is playing within the smoke, kind of dancing around that bubble, being very cautious there. Now we see the Cypher holding those sight lines. JK once again just holding in this corner, waiting for the moment that somebody dares peek themselves out or gives away their position in an effect that they can capitalize upon. As now we see Off Your Feed leaning in towards that A push, but the defense seem to be favoring B. This could be catastrophic for them, especially if they lose one early.
Sova is floating though between the B and the A, and the operator shot has started to move away from where the Phoenix is currently hiding in the corner. As now Off Your Feet make their move with the operator player still lurking on A short, has to turn around, is getting flanked by the Rays.
Ray's going to catch the worst end of that exchange as Pigmaster does take it down Ampa. Pig greater than the Goose, I suppose, in that situation. And now Off Your Feed going to be leaning in. Parappa taken down by a Vandal. The attackers are looking very good. There's very little, it seems, the defense can do, especially with this owl drone coming out. Going to be sussing out the location of Howard on Heaven. However, perhaps not quite catching out the remaining member, as Off Your Feed holding very close to this bomb. Going to be very comfortable to just let the defense take their time, as it does create an immense amount of pressure.
This is just feeling lucky, acknowledging that it's going to be extremely difficult to be able to get that spike diffused and keep their weapons intact. You can see Howardine holding a Phantom, so if you lose that, it's not like a Classic or a Frenzy. It's going to be impactful when it comes to the currency, and with Off Your Feed sitting on that match point at 12, the absolute last place that the defense wants to be is on a budget push.
Certainly not going to be a comfortable spot here, as now we do look ahead. Off Your Feed still having that operator in play. Not a full bank coming in from this defense, who need to really, once again, you said it, Mox, have this standout performance moving ahead.
Unfortunately for Feeling Lucky as well, they just don't have the currency to field an operator of their own. So Pigmaster, you have to, if you want to try and contest this operator, either throw bodies, get aggressive, or go for a little bit of a flank, and that's why we can already see a little bit more of a presence in showers from the defense. So if they do need to get that flank going, as they attempted with the Rays in the previous one to try and jump on the operator player on a short, they will be able to attempt the same thing.
See JK holding that camera, just making sure that long is still cleared, waiting for that raise to peak. Of course, they won't know that at the time. We do see that Ray's kind of playing with the idea of going in too long, but perhaps mitigating a lot of those lines of sights. Stun's trying to come out from Tendytown, but they can't find a whole lot. Instead, just using those abilities, alerting the defensive team to their presence, but we'll see how much the defense can really gain from that, as now the backup seems to be coming through. It's going to be a relocation towards B.
Cage triggered.
And at the moment, the operator is still making a little bit of noise on A, so feeling like you don't feel comfortable giving every single person over to that B defense.
30
They will
seconds
float
left.
and change this over from the A to the B, but that is the only player that will be moving, and already you can see off your feed making sure that they do still control hooker, that they will be able to turn around if the teleporter comes into play for the defense to relocate.
Smart investment from the defense, as Zola can get some recon basically risk-free, and initially the kills coming in. The attackers have a limited amount of time. The plant does try to come through from Khan, the showstopper not finding anything. Spike eventually does go down, but at the risk of the Rays and the Cypher both being dangerously low. JK taking this rotation, going to slowly be peeking in towards the container. Can't quite find the connection onto Khan, and because of that, now the defense looking a little bit lower in numbers, but perhaps not in health pools. It's going to be Parappa taking the one shot, going up with the firewall. Can't quite get their gun out in time. Pigmaster holding now within Hookah. That Omen going to be in a very tough spot, as they don't want to quite take that peek in front of. They do have to be very careful of this Raze. Howard Dean able to get the shot on the defuse, tries to come through. The Raze gets the better of Howard Dean, and because of that, the attackers win. That was a very close round.
That was so close, and if feeling like he had been able to take that round, Waltham, I think we could have actually seen like a couple more points than that 7 that they were able to pick up, but we saw it happen on Icebox. The absolute gargantuan change that was ushered in by either team that managed to get a hold of the operator, and we saw it play out once again on Bind, and I am absolutely looking forward to getting to listen to a little bit of the team's thought process, not just behind why we got to see Icebox come up in this series, but also how their entire mentality changed and based around what weaponry they were holding.
Let me ask you a unique question here, Moxie. Do you think that if we hadn't seen Icebox in the first map, that the scoreline would have looked vastly different? And how do you think that shakes up if so?
So obviously the team that picks Icebox is going to feel comfortable enough fielding Icebox and will have specific strategies for Icebox. And I think we
Mhm.
actually really got to say that Off Your Feet did flourish on that map. They had a very good understanding of the way it turned out, just as Feeling Lucky seemed to be a lot more comfortable when it came to Bind, a map that they picked themselves. And to say, well, would there have been a difference? I think the answer would have been no, because both of those guys had such a good understanding of the maps that they were on for the very little time that Icebox has been out. And I think even if we saw something like Ascent pop up, which I believe was the third map that would
Mhm.
have been an invitation for these two teams, nothing really would have changed when it comes to win conditions. You still have to have a very good understanding of how to play the map. And even more than that, I would say the operator is the most impactful when it comes to Ascent. You think about mid and how that's set up and how it just feels absolutely impossible sometimes to be able to walk anywhere near it if the opposing faction has an operator within play.
We'll perhaps get to see what the thought processes were for the teams here in just a little bit. We will be having an interview after this short break. So, folks, stick around. Off Your Feed going to be popping in just a moment to say a few words. You're not going to want to miss it. Hello and welcome back, everybody. We are here in the interview booth, which is definitely a different area than the casting booth, but we are here with Citron coming off of their win over Feeling Lucky. So, Citron, hello, welcome,
Hey, hey,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we're all pretty hyped over that win.
I can certainly imagine why. Now, I want to ask your perspective on this right out of the gate because it's something that me and Mox talked about a lot during our cast is the theme or the concept of adaptation coming through. It definitely seemed to be a factor for your team. Is that something you guys really focus on, or is it something that more happens organically for you?
It's something it is something we focused on, well, at least recently. Just thinking about like pausing mid round and figuring out like, hey, what have we learned so far in terms of where people are playing or who we've killed or who they've killed on our team. To really think about like what's the best strategy forward in terms of um, trying to win the round. So yeah, I feel like we were adapting as often as we possibly could. We definitely learned that they, started aggroing a lot and forcing on their ecos, and so we started playing really passively anytime we knew that they were ecoing.
Well, I mean, my first question is first of all going to be a huge thank you for actually playing
Playing
Icebox.
Icebox, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I will be forwarding as per earlier agreed $50 to
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
PayPal.
yeah.
But no, what influenced the decision to pick up Icebox?
It's a couple things. We permaban split the entire season, and um, we just so we could focus on 3 maps. Um, and uh, uh, and then when Icebox was released, like we again just didn't have that much time to practice on it. And so going into this match, we thought, we have a good advantage on split just based on our own internal, like everyone playing solo. We never actually dedicated that much time to split, but we thought, since we've lost to Google twice, we lost to Google in regular season, and then we lost to Google in the placements for the top seeds, and we played bind both of those times. And we also saw that I think they played split recently once against one of their matches, and I think they dominated on split. So we thought, hey, let's bring Icebox into the mix and put us almost on an even playing field, and just see how it goes.
Well,
And it
then
worked.
it's
It worked.
did. And it's very interesting as well that you yourself said that you guys wanted to avoid facing them on Bind, and Bind was actually the map that was the less close of the two
Yeah,
between both of your teams. Was there anything you feel that changed between Icebox and Bind that made things just a little bit easier for you guys?
for sure. On Icebox, we really had zero strats. Um, we were kind of calling things as the game progressed, which is why you probably saw that it ended up being like a really close match. But on Bind, since we had already lost to Google twice, we knew that they would pick Bind, and so over the last month or so, we spent some dedicated time um, trying to just like amp up our bind skills, knowing that we'd be likely playing against Google again, and that they would select bind, which they did. And so the time that we put in to bind set plays and defense plays and site retakes and all that stuff actually paid off. It ended up, I don't know, I don't even know what the score was, but we definitely had a stronger game on bind because of the time that we put in preparation for this match specifically.
So, if you put this much preparation into a match that would be the semifinals, I'm guessing you're going to be putting more preparation, or about the same, into the finals, which will be coming up next week. And I believe it is going to be It's Always Rush B, an
Yeah,
Amazon company that you guys are going to meet. And you've met them a couple of times before. What are you feeling going into that match?
Yeah, it's been a really long time since we've played them. We played them, I think, early on in the season. I think we scrimmed them once or twice as well. Um, and we haven't really seen any of their gameplay or played against them anytime recently. So I think what I think we're just going to run with what we've learned and we've practiced. I don't know if there's much of a change we can actually make going into the games against them. Um, I think they're home team, so they'll have map ban or defer rights. In terms of selecting the first map, second map, whatnot. So we'll think through like what our options are there. Um, yeah, I don't know. We're looking forward to it. We're excited about it. I mean, ultimately, we haven't even started thinking about the finals. Since we lost to Google twice, we were literally thinking like we either have to we're like this was the most important game to us. And so now obviously like the Amazon game is the most important game to us to see if we can win this whole thing. Um, yeah, it's been a blast.
Well, okay. I mean, as long as we agree to do the exact same thing, I'll forward $50. You guys pay as the first map. Thank you so much, Citron, for coming on, taking the time not only to play Valorant, but also to let us pick your brains after having played Valorant. Is there anyone
Yeah.
that you would like to shout out and use this time to say hello to?
Yeah, for sure. It's another shout out to my team. I loved this experience. The time and effort that we put into playing and practicing and strategizing has paid off. Um, and yeah, I've loved every minute of it. So thank you. Shout out to my team.
Well, fantastic. Once again, thank you, Citron. Good luck in your match next week. I know me and Mox are looking more than forward to seeing it as we move forward.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both.
And with that, Moxie, we are about ready to wrap things up here. However, folks, if you at home want to tune in for our grand finals, which, of course, me and Moxie will be here for, ready to cast all the high intensity Valorant action, I highly encourage you guys to follow us. Make sure that you're tuning in. Make sure that we get these games going here. But for Moxie and myself, I've been Sir Waltham, joined by, once again, Moxie. You can find us on Twitter at Sir Waltham or GotMoxi, GOTTMOXI. I believe I got that right there, Mox. But for all of us here at CEA, thank you guys very much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. But until then, take care and stay safe, everybody.